Welcome to TalkNorth.com. Thanks to our longtime producer, Brandon Morton. Please download before you listen. If you'd like to advertise with us, you can reach us at talknorthpodcast@gmail.com. And please follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod. Two promo codes to be aware of. Bitesquad.com. Use the promo code TalkNorth to get your first delivery free. And go to SodaStick.com, the great local apparel company. Use the promo code YouBetcha to get free shipping on any sized order. The World Series has been fascinating through two games, and let's face it, this postseason has been fascinating because of the Washington Nationals. Let's talk about that team that includes some former Twins and whether there's anything to learn from the way they built their team. This is Roy Smalley's Chin Music. This is our baseball and Twins show on TalkNorth.com. Please follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod. We have some interesting plans for the future around that Twitter feed, and it's also just a good place to find all of the shows. Thank you to our sponsors, Berry Coffee, berrycoffee.com, and Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. Also, we have the deal with Bitesquad. Promo code is TalkNorth. Appreciate all of our sponsors and our producer, Brandon Morton. All right, Roy, just give me your first impression of the first two games of the World Series or the postseason in general.
Well, I think the right teams are playing in the World Series, the teams that are the best in each league. I just don't think there's any question about that. The funny thing is that took the Nationals a wild card spot to finally flex up to how good they are. But I think everybody's seeing what a terrific club they have. And as I tweeted out during Game 1. And it didn't exactly play out last night, but will continue to do so. To see two teams with lineups that can hit like this go up against the stuff that they're going to see from starting pitching, but really, all the way through the staffs on both teams. This is fun. This is really fun to watch. And the game got out of hand last night. But it was as advertised for 6 innings, and then it just is about mistakes, and we've seen Houston make more mistakes on the mound than the Nationals have, and as I was also, Jim, as you know, as I tweeted out in Game 1, and it happened again last night. Walks early in innings walks anytime, but walks early in innings are inevitably gonna kill you. And that's, Kurt Suzuki came up against Verlander hitting 0.48, I think, or something like that in the postseason, and got he's a fastball hitter. He got a fastball and hit it out, and then Verlander walks a guy, and the relief pitcher walks a guy, and the roof falls in. That's the way it works with good teams.
And I think watching the pitcher-batter matchups and the different approaches and how they play against different lineups is, to me, the most fascinating thing about this series. Scherzer in Game 1, here you have a great pitcher who likes to get people to swing at pitches that break out of the strike zone or that look like they're strikes and end up not being strikes. And you have the Astros who don't swing at pitches out of the strike zone. And that cat and mouse game it's just great TV.
It is great TV. It's great baseball watching. It truly is. And the Nationals have hitters that are very similar to that as well. And so what you have here is on both sides in every game, you have great pitcher-batter matchups, and it's going to happen. It's going to go all the way through the series like that. Scherzer was just an absolute horse. He didn't have it in Game 1. He just was struggling with his mechanics big time, was really uncharacteristically wild. And it's not wild throwing the ball to the backstop, but he just couldn't command close enough to the strike zone enough times. And this is another thing that I've said, but you don't get guys swinging outside the zone, especially hitters that don't generally do that anyway, unless you throw a lot of strikes. You have to be in the strike zone or right on the corners all the time to get guys to chase. Once there's a sense that you're not commanding your slider really well, as Scherzer was not, and he's not pounding every fastball, in the strike zone somewhere. Once hitters get a sense of that, their tactics get better. And I don't know why it is specifically. It's not like they want to take pitches, but they want to be aggressive. But once a pitcher is not throwing strikes, hitters they don't chase. And when a pitcher is throwing Scherzer type stuff for a lot of strikes, strike one, strike two, strike one, strike two, then guys start swinging at the ball that looks like a strike and moves out of the zone. So it was just a big horse performance by Scherzer, because he didn't have his stuff, and they got 2 runs early. Houston did, and then he battled through 100 and however many pitches, 110 or 12 or however many it was, in 5 innings. But he gave he gave his hitters a chance, and that's the kind of performances you're going to see. Sometimes it's with guys like this, with talent like this, and in big series like this against good teams, you're not always going to see a one-hit performance. You're not always going to see a guy at his very best, but you're going to see really good stuff, both in terms of stuff and in terms of the stuff that's inside a guy's stomach. And, that was a great example. That was really good.
On the other side, Justin Verlander, who's one of the best pitchers of his generation, has really struggled in the World Series. I remember I covered the Tigers-Cardinals World Series back in whatever it was, 2006, I think, where, he didn't pitch all that well, and the Tigers just couldn't even field bunts and lost that series. Do you see anything that's causing Verlander to not succeed in the postseason, or at least in the World Series?
No, I think that Verlander and Kershaw, for example, I mean they have had not great postseason success, and they're both going to be in the Hall of Fame. And sometimes it's just really bad luck that starts feeding on itself in terms of anxiety or whatever it is. I don't know. But with Verlander, basically it's just been mistake here or there, and his undoing. I mean, if he gives up the home run to Suzuki, if he doesn't walk the next guy, things might be that game might have gone a totally different way. And and quite frankly, I thought the umpire on that walk right after Suzuki's home run really squeezed him. Mm-hmm. And so that was a big moment in that game. I mean, if he gets out of there 3-2, the Astros are feeling pretty good about themselves, going forward. And it didn't happen. And that's kind of the way you lose World Series games, and it's happened to him in the same way. I think much of his 0-5.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some former Twins. Do want to thank Berry Coffee, berrycoffee.com. Great people, incredible service. Customer service, easy to work with. You can call somebody and talk to them. It's not all website-based and bot-based. You're actually dealing with real human beings. And let me just remind you that they can provide the equipment you need, whether it's home, office, or a restaurant or bar. They can provide equipment for coffee brewing, for single service, for bigger service, espresso and cappuccino makers like the one I have, food service, single serve, and water and filtration systems, and everything from tea to sparkling water to whatever kind of coffee you want. They also provide pop. So pretty much any kind of beverage service you would want, Berry Coffee can provide. And of course, we highly recommend their coffee blends. Berry Coffee, berrycoffee.com. Interesting to see Brian Dozier, make it to a World Series and not be a big part of the team's plans. Who knows if he'll play or not. And then you have Fernando Rodney, who's helped out. And then Kurt Suzuki had the big moment. And then Anibal Sanchez, who was a Twin for 1 week in spring training and looked like his career is over. And now he's become a big part of this national team. It's always fascinating to see. I always say one of my favorite things about baseball is because it's not a sport that's just about physical prowess. There's so much technique and emotional intelligence and I guess savvy that's required to succeed. You see people go up and down in their careers, and it's not always about the physical training. Sometimes it's about how you grip the ball.
Really true. There's so much that goes, so many factors that influence success or not. And what we're seeing from Anibal Sanchez, for example, is a guy that, I mean, the Twins were in a position to say, I mean, if they felt at all like he was going to pitch like he did 8 years ago, he'd have been on the staff with the Twins. But he just last couple of years he's not been all that impressive. And when you say how you grip the ball, I mean, what's been the difference for Sanchez? Why all of a sudden he's got better command than he's had for 2 years, and he's throwing his fastball and his changeup, exactly where he wants to in different counts at different times, and that, I mean, it's just that simple, and he's got the kind of savvy that, and with his stuff, he can mix up speeds and locations and trajectories. And when you're doing that and you're 3-1 all the time, you're gonna get beat. And when you're doing that and you're 0-2 all the time, or is strike one, you've got a chance to win with his stuff. So it really is an interesting game in that regard, how fine a line it can be between great success and, boy, it looks like you're done. I mean, and literally, those are two ends of the continuum that are separated by a very fine line in a lot of cases.
Absolutely. What do you see out of Soto? Why is he succeeding at such a young age?
Oh man, he's beyond his years. Well, first of all, just like anybody else, he's got great physical talent. I mean, he's strong and he's got a great swing. Naturally, and his mechanics are really good. And then on top of that, he's way, way ahead of the curve in terms of his age and how he approaches pitchers and pitches and counts. And so what we've seen from him is the willingness, and not just the willingness, the desire to say, I'm going to hit the ball, I'm going to let the ball travel, because I trust my bat speed and I trust my strength, and I am not going to make myself vulnerable to a lot of pitches because I want to hit the ball out of the ballpark to my pull field. I can do that, but I'm going to let the pitch dictate where the ball goes out of the ballpark. He's so strong and has such a solid swing, is much like Nelson Cruz, for example, although I think Soto could turn out to be even a much better two-strike hitter than Nelson is. But it's similar in that they know that they can do damage all over the ballpark, so there is very little allure or temptation for them to say, "Man, I got to hit this ball. I got to pull this ball." He's waiting a long time, seeing the ball a long time, and reacting to where it is. And I get the feeling that he's a really smart young man too. What happens is when you do that, pitchers will generally adjust and start pitching you up, but particularly in, because you can't wait as long on pitches inside. You've got to get the bat head out in front to hit inside strikes. And what I think Soto is already smart enough to do is, if he sees a steady diet of that, he'll just start looking for the ball in there, and he will cheat on fastball in there, hit it 9 miles to right field, and then the pitcher will just go right back out on the outside part of the plate again. It doesn't take much to convince pitchers not to pitch you inside. All it takes is one. They'll pitch outside all day long, and you hit them the other way, and they say, "Man, I got to tip my hat to him. He can't hit that pitch all the time," and they just stay out there. But once you start really hurting them, like Soto has, to the opposite field and hitting balls away, then they start coming in. They won't stay in there past one home run. They just won't. And I think he's smart enough to be able to make those adjustments. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, which, to sum up, would be he's talented, he's mechanically sound, he's strong, and he's way ahead of the game in terms of his willingness to have different approaches at the plate.
One more